Good evening and welcome to Slipstream Media. This is Tulsi Gabbard giving another interview. I'm loving what she's doing on the campaign front and the way she manages to carry herself. So let's dig in and see what happens. 5, 4, 3, 2. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Slipstream Media. This is Tulsi Gabbard giving an interview. She's been fantastic on the campaign trail and really is someone I admire. I think if she'd run as a Republican against Donald Trump, she would have certainly been the main contender. Got a lot of respect for her, so let's see what she's got to say, and I will intermittently add a bit of commentary.
We're here at the Mums for Liberty conference with Tulsi Gabbard after she came out this week to endorse former President Donald Trump. Could you just speak to that decision and just this idea that also RFK, another former Democrat, came out in support of the former president as opposed to Vice President Kamala Harris? Can you just talk to that decision as well as the significance of people like you to this election?
There are a lot of people across the country who have gone through perhaps a similar experience as I have or feel as I have, and even Bobby Kennedy, in that today's Democrat Party does not represent the party that we have been a part of for so long. The opportunity here in this election and the statement that has been made very clear over this past week with these endorsement announcements of President Trump is that this choice before voters in America is not between the Democrats versus the Republicans, which is what kind of the mainstream media will try to present it to be. It's really a choice between a candidate in Donald Trump who stands for peace and freedom and prosperity for all Americans versus a candidate in Kamala Harris who has shown through her record over these last 3.5 years and beyond that she will bring more anti-freedom policies. We will see an increasingly tyrannical government that tries to censor free speech, either directly or indirectly through proxies like Facebook and Meta and others. We will see more war. The Harris-Biden administration has us embroiled in multiple wars around the world and closer to the brink of World War III and nuclear war than ever before. And we will see increased economic hardship for Americans. So
let's just unpack that the Democrat Party, through their actions recently, and as is proven conclusively, so they can't duck out of this one because through Joe Biden's executive orders, the absolute catastrophe of Mark Zuckerberg's bombshell that he was coerced and the FBI were involved. They've been involved in covering up the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. That meant that Kamala and Joe would not have been elected had it not been for their illegal election interference, because he would have lost 10% of his vote, and that's the highest rated poll. Some of them say 40%. So he couldn't have won with that story coming out, and they buried it for him to keep a puppet in the office. It's worth remembering that no one's taken culpability for that yet. No one's mentioned it. No one on the Democrat side will touch that question. What did you do to Joe, and how did you do it, and why do you think it's okay? And why do you think it's okay to lie to the people? Anyway, crack on.
The choice that we have in looking out for the best interests of the American people, our security, our freedom, our ability to have a bright future could not be more clear in this election. And President Trump is showing that he has the ability to bring people together who may not agree on every issue, may have strong disagreements on a few or many issues, but who are coming together around the most fundamental and important issues to us as Americans in peace and freedom.
So it's interesting, you've had this journey where you were a former supporter of Bernie Sanders in 2016 and you ran for president yourself, and now you're sort of in the Trump camp. I mean, are there lots of people like you out there? I mean, how should the Trump campaign reach out to people like you? I know you tried to do a town hall with him last night. You're sort of on the podcast circuit. Is that the best way? Is that how you're advising him?
It's reaching people however and wherever we can. People are consuming information and media in a lot of different ways right now. But to your question, I mean, I endorsed Bernie Sanders over Hillary Clinton in 2016 around one single issue, and that was the issue of war and peace. and pointing out, as a service member, as a veteran of multiple deployments to war zones in different parts of the world, back then, how dangerous Hillary Clinton would be as the queen of warmongers if she were allowed to be commander-in-chief, and the cost that would come with that to our national security and in the lives of my brothers and sisters in uniform, versus Bernie Sanders, who's largely a non-interventionist. But as we saw even in that 2016 election, there were many Bernie Sanders supporters who, after he suspended his campaign and endorsed Hillary Clinton, they left and they endorsed and supported and voted for President Trump. Why is that? Because they saw what many people are seeing now, is that President Trump is someone who will fulfill his promises in fighting for the people. And so you saw some of the populist policies of Bernie Sanders, or some of the populist policies that President Trump had then and continues to have now, fighting for the working man and woman in our country. He's talking about no taxes on tips, no taxes on Social Security. He's talking about the people who are struggling to survive right now in this tough economic environment that's been created by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. And really, what do we want as Americans, as voters? We want to have confidence that our president and our commander-in-chief has our back and is.
Yeah, and I think the key thing to always remember is Trump's got a record of delivering success, and Kamala Harris has got a record of delivering abject failure in all of her roles. She's the queen of Go Light on Crime, $950 theft limits, sanctuary cities. She architected all of that back in San Francisco, and that's why it's turned into the hellhole it is today, and it's one of the least desirable places to live in America, whereas it was one of the most desirable cities to live in the world, and that's 4 years of Biden. The thing is, Biden wasn't extreme. Bernie Sanders is your kind of like Jeremy Corbyn type socialist, really believes actually in the workers and the people. But with Kamala Harris, you've got a Marxist who believes in the utopian dream that Lenin and Stalin fell into madness with. And obviously with that, she's proposing some economic ideas that would bankrupt the world. Or she's going to have to tax American people up to 80% on all of their earnings, simply to fund her, as she said, as Tulsi put it, the state-run institutions. The government will take control of more and more of your life and possessions until it stops being dividing everything equally between the people. So the redirection of wealth and dispersion of property management will last for about a year, and then it will be not we all get the same, but you get what you're given, and you will shut up about it because there's nothing you can do now. And that's how every socialist government starts and how it ends.
Looking out for us, not some big corporate elitist, not the big military industrial complex, not big pharma. We want to know that we've got somebody to fight for us. And I think that's what Bobby Kennedy sees. That's what I see. And that's what I think more and more Americans, I hope, are going to start to reflect on when we compare the records between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
So you're a part of the...
And just to touch on the team he's got around him now, he's got Bobby Kennedy, perfect for Secretary of Health, and it's his passion. Trump didn't have anyone in his team with that level of passion and experience, so he's a shoo-in for that. Foreign Affairs Secretary of Foreign Affairs right here, Tulsi Gabbard. She's a veteran. She's a great speaker, a great personality. You got, I think, Secretary of State's guaranteed to be Vivek Ramaswamy because he's been mentioned as very likely, but I said it in January, he's probably the most valuable asset Trump could have, but he might outshine him on a campaigning way, and that's why he's being a bit more quiet now. But I think he'll get Secretary of State. J.D. Vance I picked in January, he's perfect, but if you look at all of those, they're all better choices than Harris or Waltz or Chuck Schumer or any of the Democrat options. They're all better choices, and they're all around Trump, advising him, and will be parts of his cabinet.
The Trump transition team sort of moving forward as they prepare for a potential second administration. I mean, what priorities do you want him to focus on going into a second term?
We haven't met yet, so I don't have much to say about a transition team. But I think President Trump has made his own priorities very clear, really, in what I just talked about. It is about peace and freedom and prosperity. We cannot be prosperous unless we are at peace. We cannot be truly free if we are in a constant state of war, as we have seen, where too often the powers that be, the national security state, those who derive power from taking away our liberty, often use the excuse of, well, we have to keep you safe, and therefore we must take away more of your liberty. What we saw with the Patriot Act, what we've seen with the expansion of the Patriot Act most recently, and there are many other examples. So, there's a lot of work to be done. There are a lot of issues that need to be addressed. But what I think is at the heart of the transformational change that President Trump has the opportunity to bring about, if he gets elected to another term in office, it cuts to the heart of the swamp of Washington. And that includes elected politicians and a whole lot of unelected bureaucrats in the administrative state who unfortunately have gotten to a point where they believe that they are more important and more powerful than the voices of the people, and that they will do what is in their best interests at the cost of our liberty. So, President Trump has shown he's already assembling a team of people who are putting our country first and committed to that cause, putting the interests of the American people first, versus the careerists of the swamp of Washington who will put their power over people and the interests of the people every day. That is the heart of the transformational change that needs to take place across every agency in our government.
And
That's exactly it. The Democrats are so undemocratic they've become totalitarian. And it's basically a group of elites who've decided that the democracy and the people in it that they propagate to support are not qualified to make decisions on their own behalf. So best to leave a handful of elite long-term politicians to run everything and not listen to the public. Now they've turned totalitarian and their tactics are insane. Then the fact that it's even going on in America makes it even worse. They're not a democratic party. There's no democracy in what happened to Biden, the cover-up, the coup, and then installing Kamala Harris. It's all against the Constitution, and they don't care because they need to keep power. It's a need for them. They don't have any good ideas. They don't have any desires to make anyone's life better. They just feel that they must be the controllers of the idea of democracy, but they don't practice it. Anyway, we'll leave it there. I'll split this in two. So I hope you liked it. If you did find it useful, that's great. Leave comments, please. And if you do want to subscribe and like and all that, that's all good for me. Costs you nothing. If not, no worries. And I'll speak to you soon. You be lucky. I'll be good.